You don't like your boyfriend seeing me braless in the dorm? Then he won't. I live in a college dorm on an all-female floor. I usually wear a bra when leaving the dorm building, but I'm not going to put one on just to walk down the hall to the bathroom. A few days ago, I left my room and walked 10 yards down the hall to the water fountain, refilled my water bottle, and went back to my room. I was wearing a white tank top and no bra. The tank top was fitted but not see-through, so you could only see the outline of my nipples. There was a small group of people hanging out in the hall outside a few of the rooms, but I didn't think much of it until around half an hour later, when I got a knock on the door from one of the girls I'd seen in the hall. She said something to the effect of, "Hey, so sorry to ask you this, but if you go out into the hall again, could you put a bra on? My boyfriend's out there," and he was staring a little, so I'm super non-confrontational. So I was like, "Yeah, sure, sorry about that," and for the rest of that night, anytime I left my room I put on a bra or sweater, and that was the end of it, or so I thought. The next day, my roommate told me she'd overheard the girl telling a few of her friends about the incident while in the bathroom. She said the girl was making it sound like I'd been purposely trying to seduce her boyfriend, wearing basically nothing, taking my time at the water fountain, posing to push out my breasts, the whole works. When she left the bathroom, my roommate said the girl was actually acting it out at the water fountain, pretending to be me. That night, I passed the girl and some of her friends on my way to go brush my teeth. I wasn't wearing a bra. I was already in pajamas. The girl looked pointedly down at my chest and all of them started giggling. But the last straw was when the entire dorm got an email from the RA yesterday, saying she'd gotten some anonymous complaints about people dressing inappropriately in the hallways, and asking that we all just make sure we're keeping things covered up. So here's where I got my petty little revenge. I knew that the girl's boyfriend doesn't go to college here. The girl and I were in the same orientation group and chatted a bit back then. I also knew that due to the pandemic, we aren't allowed to have non-student family guests in the dorms this year. So I used the same anonymous complaint form to issue a complaint about people bringing their off-campus boyfriends into our dorm and them not wearing masks. Masks are mandatory in the hallways, although not frequently enforced. This morning, the RA emailed again saying that due to anonymous complaints, they'd be enforcing the no off-campus guests rule by checking IDs of unfamiliar guests to make sure they were students from then on. Really, this girl should be thanking me. If she was concerned about her boyfriend seeing the vague outline of my breasts in the dorm hallways, she no longer needs to worry. Total Wine refused to sell me the specific wine I traveled 60 miles for because they claimed I was accompanied by someone else who left and they needed to see that person's ID. However, I was alone. In response, I placed a mobile order worth $10,000 and never picked it up. Recounting this incident reignited my anger due to the sheer disrespect from Total Wine management. I have the receipt for this order as well. There's a specific wine I used to pair with food, and the closest Total Wine location that had it was a 60-mile drive away. Despite the stormy weather, I wanted it for the holidays since I'd likely be cooped up inside. So I made the journey. This Total Wine used to be my typical stop until I moved to counties away. Upon arrival, I picked up the wine and grabbed some other items for holiday parties. I was in there for about an hour, and when it came time to check out, the cashier asked for my ID. After complying, she then requested the ID of the other person I was supposedly with. Confused, I clarified that I was alone. She insisted on fetching her manager. The manager arrived and informed me that the cashier reported I was with someone and they needed to return with their ID or they wouldn't sell the wine to me. I reiterated that I was solo. He then examined my ID and remarked, "Unfortunately, you look young." I was incredulous at this point. "Are you serious?" I responded. He suggested I return the next day alone. I found it extremely disrespectful for someone to comment on my appearance while holding my ID, especially considering I'd been shopping at that location for about 4 years without issue. So I expressed my frustration, explaining how I had driven there and been a loyal customer for years. I even offered a second form of ID, but he dismissed me with a laugh. Fuming, I left the store, facing a late-night drive home in the rain. The next day, I visited the Total Wine closer to my house to get the items I needed. Unfortunately, they were out of the wine, which is why I didn't go there initially. However, the staff there were exceptionally pleasant. not even asking for my ID, highlighting the stark contrast with the previous location's behavior. Later, I received an email from Total Wine asking for a review of my experience, as they do after each visit, though I usually ignore these. I decided to provide feedback on the location where I had the bad experience. I detailed the incident in the review, and the next day, I received a call from the store manager. It turns out the person I dealt with was an assistant manager. However, the woman who called me was extremely rude and condescending. She claimed to have reviewed the security footage, asserting that someone walked in with me at the same time, thus making us a party. I insisted I didn't know them, but she brushed it off, stating it didn't matter. She then mentioned that employees observed the person leaving 30 minutes before I went to check out. I questioned why they didn't address it at the time, but she had no satisfactory answer. Despite my objections, she stuck to her argument, maintaining that the person would need to return with their ID to complete the transaction. This infuriated me further. Even if that was the policy, a simple apology for the inconvenience would have been appreciated instead of arguing with me. Her attitude compounded the insult of the initial incident, so I looked up their policy, which clearly states that this rule applies to parties at checkout, making it more understandable. Another interesting policy I found stated that any online order not picked up within a week would receive a full refund. That evening, while discussing the ordeal with friends, I decided to enact their policy against them. In a fit of drunken rage, I placed a $10,000 order for the soonest pickup time. I made sure to order the cheapest, heaviest bottles to occupy as much space as possible on their shelves. Additionally, I only ordered 1 or 2 of each item to prevent them from simply handing me a case. I also ordered their entire stock of Tito's, anticipating high demand during the holidays. Their curbside pickup area is visible to customers, so I knew others would see the large order and likely inquire about it, further inconveniencing the staff. I also included many items behind glass, forcing them to scramble for keys to access them. After loading up my cart, I placed the order and received confirmation, noting that pickup times were not guaranteed. Surprisingly, 5 hours later, I received the pickup confirmation email. Despite the delay, I was still taken aback. Over the following days, I received reminders about the pickup, culminating in a final notice after 7 days. On the 10th day, I received a phone call from the manager, who seemed much friendlier this time. She asked when I planned to collect the order. At this point, I suspected she knew I was playing a prank on them, especially given the length of time. I told her I had already obtained the items from another Total Wine location. She sounded frustrated and asked if I intended to pick up the order. I simply replied, "Nah." She hung up, and I couldn't help but laugh at the situation. When questioned about why their store had to issue a $10,000 refund, they'll have quite the story to tell. They were supposed to automatically cancel the order after 7 days, but waited until day 10 to contact me. When I called their customer service line to cancel the order, I learned that some stores wait until the end of the month to do so. Sensing the manager's reluctance to refund the money, I insisted on immediate cancellation. In the end, I made sure they felt the inconvenience they caused me.